students, today we will start lecture 2 of chapter 1 Chemical Reaction and Equations, class 10th. There are different types of chemical reactions in which the reactant combine or break into the product, one product or two products. These reactions we will study one by one with an examples. Combination reaction is, as the name suggests, that is combining of either two elements or one element and one compound or two compounds. They combined to give a single product. In the first example, it is two elements they are combining to give a product, that is HCl. In the second example, CO, carbon monoxide, is a compound. It is reacting with an element oxygen to give carbon dioxide as compound. In the last example, these are two compounds. They are giving another compound, that is ammonium chloride. So it is a combination of either of the two reactants to give a single compound, single product. Decomposition reaction is the breaking of a single reactant into two or more products. If this decomposition happens with the help of heat, when it requires heat, that is known as thermolytic decomposition or thermolysis. When it requires light for decomposition, then it is known as photolytic decomposition or photolysis. Similarly, when we use electricity for the decomposition process, then this is known as electrolytic decomposition or electrolysis. Like water is decomposed into hydrogen and oxygen gases with the help of a flow of current. Displacement reaction, as the name suggests, it displaces. The more reactive element, it displaces the less reactive element from its compound. Like zinc is more reactive, so it will displace copper from copper sulfate. Copper sulfate is a compound, and when we keep zinc and copper sulfate together, what will happen in the aqueous form, means in the solution form, what will happen? The zinc will replace copper from copper sulfate and a new compound is formed, zinc sulfate, and copper is kept away. Similarly, if copper reacts with AgNO3, copper displaces your silver. Double displacement reaction, as the name suggests, that there is a displacement of two ions, double way. Here is an example taken of aluminum sulfate and calcium hydroxide. So what happens here is aluminum and calcium, they both interchange and two new products are formed, that is aluminum hydroxide and calcium sulfate. So that is an example of double displacement reaction. Redox reaction, that means oxidation and reduction takes place simultaneously at the same time. Now what is oxidation? The substance that loses electrons gains oxygen or loses hydrogen. Or reduction, substance that gains electron, loses oxygen or gains hydrogen. They both are in reverse of each other. Now what is oxidizing agent? The substance that oxidizes another substance and itself it gets reduced. Similarly, reducing agent, a substance that reduces another substance and itself it gets oxidized. That is a reducing agent. Now we will take an example here. Iron, it reacts with copper sulfate in aqueous form, gives you ferrous sulfate, that is FeSO4, and copper. So what is happening here is iron, it is giving electrons. That means it undergoes, or it is losing electrons. That means it undergoes oxidation. And we can say that it is a reducing agent. And copper sulfate, the copper is in ion form. Sulfate is also in ion form because copper sulfate, it breaks into Cu2 plus SO4 minus 2. So that copper ion it gains that 2 electrons and undergoes reduction. Or we can say that copper here is oxidizing agent. Now same thing we can apply for another example. In this, zinc from zinc oxide undergoes reduction because zinc from zinc oxide, it is gaining the electrons and becomes zinc. And carbon, it gets oxidizes to CO. That means carbon is giving electrons, losing electrons and gets converted into CO. That means carbon is undergoing oxidation. Or we can say that zinc oxide is an oxidizing agent and carbon is a reducing agent. Endothermic and exothermic reactions, as the name suggests, endothermic means every reaction in which energy is required to carry that reaction, and exothermic is in which the energy is released or evolved during the reaction. The process of glucose formation with the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight, or we can say photosynthesis process, glucose is formed. That means heat is required to carry this reaction. Or most of the decomposition reactions, they are endothermic in nature, that requires heat to decompose that compound. Similarly, exothermic is where heat is evolved. So all the combustion reactions, like if we are burning some compound, or like here we have taken an example of methane and it is reacting with oxygen, it is an oxidation and it is releasing carbon dioxide and water and heat. Thermite reaction, again it is an example of exothermic reaction.